ever get that feeling when you're trying to, speak English.
Okay.
And it's like your thoughts are taking this little detour through your native language first.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Like, because there's a translator, like, in your brain working overtime.
It's very common.
Yeah.
It really is. It's like a natural stage. In language learning, I think. Yeah, that reliance on translation.
Absolutely. And that's what we're diving deep into today. How to actually train your brain to think in English, to kind of bypass that internal translator, right? And we've got a bunch of great sources for this. Keith Speaking Academy, IH Cairo, Rachel's English, Jerry from Beyond the Mic.
Wow, what a lineup.
And even a good piece from VOA Learning English, via a through a link, all focused on this.
Okay.
How do you actually start thinking in English?
So it sounds like we're giving our listeners some really solid strategies, things that they can use like right away.
Absolutely. Actionable steps, insights to get you to break that translation habit.
I like it.
So why is this such a challenge in the first place? Why is this whole thinking in English thing so difficult?
Well, I think a big part of it is how a lot of us were taught English. That grammar translation method,
Right.
which was very common. It really emphasized, understanding the rules, the grammar rules.
Yeah.
And translating directly between English and your native language.
Like word for word substitution almost.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's helpful. It's helpful for basic concepts, but it kind of creates this habit of always looking for that equivalent,
Right.
that linguistic equivalent.
Right. It's like your brain is trained to see your first language as like the operating system.
Mhm.
And then English is just an application on top that needs this translator to
Yeah.
work.
That's a great analogy.
And Jerry from Beyond the Mic, he talks about this too, how it's this ingrained habit, especially when you're a beginner,
It feels safe. It's familiar.
Right. It feels safe.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
When you're first starting out.
It's logical.
Yeah.
And then you've got to think about your brain, right? Your brain just naturally, it wants to be efficient. It wants to take the path of least resistance.
Of course.
It's going to go for whatever takes the least amount of energy, right?
Absolutely.
And Jerry talks about this, your brain is so good at processing in your native language.
It's a well-worn path.
Because it's been doing it for years. It's like, trying to learn a new keyboard layout. Your fingers just want to go back to what's familiar.
They do, yeah.
But Jerry also says something really interesting, which is there's this fear of making mistakes.
Oh, for sure.
When you try to think directly in English.
It's understandable, though.
Totally. It feels safer to translate first.
Yeah, to know that you have it right.
Yeah. So knowing all this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Knowing these are the hurdles, what are some things that we can actually do? What are some effective strategies to make that shift?
Well, one of the things that comes up in pretty much every source we've looked at is immersion. Like really immerse yourself. Yeah. Surround yourself with English.
Right. So that doesn't mean like you have to move to London or something.
No, not at all. It's more about creating an environment, an English-rich environment, right?
Right.
And Keith really emphasizes like set aside time each day, even if it's just 10 minutes.
Okay.
To engage with English, yeah.
So what are some ways that people can do that?
Well, listen to podcasts.
Of course.
Like this one, hopefully. Listen to internet radio, put on some English music, get lost in an English book or magazine, or even just browse blogs and websites that interest you.
Right. In English.
Yeah. Watching YouTube videos, films, TV series, all in English.
Right.
That's all part of it, yeah.
That's great. And Keith mentioned something really interesting about that, which is passive versus active. So explain that a bit.
So with passive listening, you're just letting the sounds wash over you. The rhythms, the intonation, without that pressure of understanding every single word.
Right.
And that just helps your brain kind of get used to the music of the language.
Right.
And then there's active listening, where you are focusing on words, on phrases, maybe repeating them.
Okay.
And that helps to solidify, the new vocabulary, grammatical structures.
Right. You're really actively trying to learn something specific.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So you're sort of building up this library in your brain.
Right. And IH Cairo has a good tip for this, immersion idea, which is switch your phone, computer, apps to English.
Oh, that's such a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because every time you check a notification, Or navigate an app, you're seeing English.
Right. You're reinforcing it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so another strategy, and this one might seem counterintuitive,
Oh, okay.
is to only use words that you know when you're speaking. Keith Speaking Academy advises this. And it's kind of a shift in focus, right? Because a lot of times when we're learning English, we're trying to always learn new words.
Sometime. Yeah.
Expand the vocabulary.
Yeah.
Which is good, but when you're trying to speak and you're always reaching for that new word, it can interrupt the flow.
Oh, yeah. And you get stuck in that translation loop.
Exactly. So Keith says, just use what you know.
Okay.
Right? And become more fluent with what you already have.
Interesting. So like really master those words.
Yes.
That you already have. Okay.
And then when you do encounter something that you don't have the word for, get creative. Right? Describe it in a different way.
Interesting.
Using the words that you do know, it's like this problem solving.
Like a puzzle almost.
Great for your English.
I like it.
So there's another really practical tip that a lot of these sources talk about, which is starting small and building up.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Make it manageable.
Right. Keith Speaking Academy, IH Cairo, Rachel's English, Jerry, they all touch on this. And the first step is so simple. Label objects around you in English.
Oh, okay. Like I see a lamp, I say lamp.
Yes.
All right.
Right.
Easy enough.
And Rachel's English says, this is actually how we learned our first language, you know?
As babies.
Yeah. We start by associating words with the objects.
Yeah.
So you're kind of recreating that
Interesting.
in your brain for English.
Like rewiring those pathways.
Yes, exactly. And Keith suggests doing this, you know, in those little moments of dead time. Like you're waiting in line, you're on the bus.
Just sitting around.
Yeah. Just start naming things
Okay.
in your head in English.
Silently.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's a gradual process, right?
Right.
So Keith outlines it, you know. You start with the single words, table, chair, window.
Okay, basics.
Then you move to collocations, which, remember, collocations are just these natural word pairings.
Right, like words that go together.
Yeah, that native speakers use.
Okay.
So like strong coffee versus powerful coffee. They both mean kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
But strong coffee just sounds more natural.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Right.
So it's like yoga mat, blue t-shirt. Then you can build up to short phrases.
Okay.
So there's a yoga mat in the corner. She's wearing a blue t-shirt. But the key is to keep it simple.
Right. Use what you know.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, this next one might feel a little weird, but it's highly recommended. Talk to yourself
Oh, okay.
in English.
Out loud.
Well, you can do it out loud, but in your head, too.
Okay.
Keith, IH Cairo, Jerry, they all say this is really helpful. And what's interesting, Keith talks about how, you know, that internal speech that we have.
Like our inner monologue.
Yeah, our thoughts.
Yeah.
They actually come from internalizing spoken language.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So when you're talking to yourself in English,
Uh-huh.
even if you're alone,
Yeah.
you're training your brain to formulate thoughts
In English.
in English.
Got it.
So Keith suggests describing your feelings.
Okay.
Like, oh, I'm so tired. Or you see something funny, you're like, that's hilarious.
All right.
Or describe what you're doing. Like, I'm making breakfast now.
Yeah.
I need to get the milk out of the fridge. Just narrate your day.
Okay.
IH Cairo and Rachel's English, they even suggest, like, imagine conversations
Oh, wow. Okay.
in your head. Like, ask yourself questions and then answer them
In English.
in English. And Jerry says this is a good way to build confidence.
Makes sense. Get comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so another thing that can really help is writing
Okay.
in English.
So like putting pen to paper.
Yeah.
Okay.
Keith says it adds a visual element to the learning process.
Right.
So he says, you know, start with simple things.
Uh-huh.
Write your shopping list in English. Write a message to yourself. Or, you know, a friend. Take notes. Keep a journal. Start a blog.
These are all pretty easy things to do.
Right. And the key is when you're doing these things,
Uh-huh.
you're more likely to be thinking in English first.
Right. Rather than translating it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a direct path from the thought to the expression.
Got it.
And IH Cairo, Rachel's English, and Jerry, they all say it's good to like track your English activities
Oh, okay.
in writing.
Keep a record of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that just shows you like how much you're doing.
Right. And it reinforces the idea that English is part of your daily life.
Yeah. It's not just a thing you study.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of like individual practice things, but obviously at some point you have to actually use this with other people.
Right. Real world practice.
Right.
Yeah.
So both Keith and Jerry emphasize practicing with others.
Right.
And Jerry calls this speaking without a safety net.
I like that. Yeah, because
Yeah.
you're kind of out there.
Yeah.
You're on your own.
You got to think on your feet.
Exactly.
So when you're having conversations, whether it's with other learners or teachers or native speakers, you're getting this really valuable practice of thinking in English.
Right.
And Keith says, try to stick to the vocabulary you know, so you don't get sidetracked by translation.
Right. Stay focused on thinking in English.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Jerry's big on pushing yourself to speak
Right.
without planning everything out
Okay.
or translating in your head.
Just let it flow.
Yeah, just let it flow.
Okay.
Embrace the imperfections.
Yeah, because we all make mistakes.
Absolutely. And he suggests, language exchange apps
Oh, okay.
like Tandem
Yeah.
as a way to find speaking partners.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
So this next strategy, Keith calls it a game changer.
Oh, okay. I'm intrigued.
Switch to being monolingual.
What do you mean?
Start using an English-to-English dictionary.
Oh, okay. Instead of translating.
Yes. Rachel's English and Jerry talk about this too.
Right. So you're forcing your brain to work in English.
Yes.
Okay.
So now instead of seeing a word and getting that quick translation, you have to engage with the definition in English.
Right.
Read example sentences.
Okay.
So you're immersing yourself
Yeah.
in English.
Dunk dive.
Yeah. And Rachel's English suggests learners' dictionaries, which are really good for this.
Yeah, because they use simple language to define the words.
Exactly. And Keith and Jerry both say that if you always rely on those bilingual dictionaries, you're kind of stuck.
Dependent on that translation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jerry from Beyond the Mic has a really interesting idea, which is connecting words to feelings and pictures.
Okay, that sounds visual.
It is. It's about bypassing translation completely
Okay.
by linking the word directly to a sensory experience.
Okay, so like instead of seeing the word sun
Yeah.
and then translating it, I think about the feeling of warmth.
Yes, exactly. Or the image of like a bright yellow circle.
Right.
And he says you can do the same thing with emotions. So like if you see the word sad, you might picture like a rainy day.
Okay. Or someone crying.
Yeah.
Got it.
And he gives this really simple exercise. Just point at objects around you
Okay.
and name them
In English.
in English
Okay.
out loud.
All right. So it's like building that direct connection
Yes.
between the word and the thing.
Yes. Okay, Jerry also talks about gamifying your learning.
Oh, okay. Making it fun.
Yes. So he has this game called the 5-second game,
Okay.
where you look at an object and you have 5 seconds to name it.
Oh, okay. That's a good one. Yeah, to test your reflexes. Yeah.
He also suggests word storming, which is just brainstorming related words in English. So like if the topic is food,
Okay.
you just start listing out all the English words for food you can think of.
Apple banana sandwich. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he also says use emotion triggers. So like when something happens, you react in English.
Okay.
So like wow or ouch.
Just like a natural reaction.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he has this no native language challenge
Okay.
where you just dedicate some time to thinking only in English.
Oh, wow.
No matter how simple the thoughts are.
That's tough.
Yeah. It can be challenging,
Yeah.
but he says it's really effective.
Okay.
And then finally, he says, reward yourself
Oh, okay.
when you catch yourself thinking naturally in English.
Like a little treat.
Yeah, positive reinforcement.
I like it.
Okay, and then finally, Jerry mentions some more advanced techniques
Okay.
for really making this thinking in English thing automatic.
All right.
So one is dream journaling
Oh, interesting.
in English.
So I wake up and I write down my dream.
Yeah.
And he says, that can be a really interesting way to see how English is being processed.
In your subconscious.
Yeah, even when you're not aware of it.
Okay, cool.
He also suggests debating with yourself in English.
Keep it in my head.
Yeah, pick a topic
Mhm.
and argue both sides.
Okay, so it's really forcing me to think critically.
Yeah. And use complex language.
Yeah.
Singing English songs.
Okay.
That's another one.
Fun.
It forces you to think quickly,
Right?
keep up with the lyrics, narrating your actions
Okay.
throughout the day.
It's like I'm brushing my teeth.
Yeah. Do the dishes.
Okay. Right.
Just simple stuff.
Yeah.
Having a dedicated no native language time each day.
Okay.
So even if it's just for a few minutes,
Yeah.
no native language allowed.
Challenge yourself.
Yeah. I.H. Cairo says, think about decisions in English.
Oh, interesting.
So if you're trying to decide what to eat,
Yeah.
do it in English.
Should I have pizza or salad?
Yeah.
Okay.
Both IH Cairo and Rachel's English recommend summarizing your day
Okay.
in English before you go to sleep.
All right, like a little recap.
Yeah.
Jerry even suggests visualizing your day ahead
Oh, wow.
in English.
Okay.
So, tomorrow I'm going to wake up, I'm going to have coffee, I'm going to go to work.
All right. Planning it all out.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Rachel's English has this really cool idea, which is to learn something new
Okay.
using only English resources.
Oh, interesting.
So like follow an English recipe,
Okay.
learn a new craft from an English book,
Yeah.
something like that.
Put it into practice.
Yeah.
Right.
So we've covered so much in this deep dive. What are some of the key takeaways for our listeners?
Well, I think the biggest thing is to remember that this is a skill.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking in English, it's a skill. It takes practice.
Absolutely.
It takes effort, and it takes patience.
Yeah. You're not going to wake up one day and suddenly
Be fluent.
Yeah.
It's a journey.
It is. It is. And both Keith and Rachel's English say start small,
Okay.
right?
Don't overwhelm yourself.
Yeah. And gradually build up.
Yeah. Manageable steps.
Yes.
Okay.
And consistency is key.
Oh, for sure.
Right. Both Keith and Rachel's English talk about this.
Yeah.
A little bit every day
Little and often.
is better than, a lot once in a while.
Absolutely.
And IH Cairo reminds us it's okay to get frustrated.
Oh, for sure. It's a challenge.
Yeah, it's normal.
Yeah.
Progress isn't always linear.
It's going to be ups and downs.
Right. So stay positive.
Yeah.
Celebrate the small wins,
Yeah.
and stay motivated.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jerry gives a good piece of advice, which is don't worry too much about perfect grammar
Oh, okay.
when you're first starting to think in English.
All right. Because it's more about just getting those thoughts flowing.
Exactly. Just start thinking.
Okay.
And the accuracy will come later.
Yeah. With practice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he says, even those simple, maybe grammatical incorrect thoughts.
Yeah.
That's progress.
It is. It's a starting point.
It is. It's a starting point.
Yeah.
So let's recap quickly.
Why?
The core strategies.
All right.
Immerse yourself in English
Okay.
every day.
Got it.
Use the English words that you already know
Okay.
when you're speaking.
Yeah.
Start by labeling things
Okay.
and build up from there.
Yeah.
Talk to yourself.
Out loud or in my head?
Either one.
Okay.
Write in English.
Right.
Practice with other people.
Yeah.
Use monolingual dictionary.
Okay.
Connect words to feelings and pictures.
Right.
Gamify your learning.
Make it fun.
Yeah. And then, try some of those advanced techniques if you're feeling ready.
If you want to level up.
Yes, exactly. And all of this leads to those benefits we talked about at the beginning.
Right. Fluency, speed, confidence.
Exactly. And it's really about rewiring your brain.
To think in English.
Yeah. So it becomes more natural, more automatic.
And ultimately more enjoyable.
Yes. So for you, our listener, here's a final thought. Think about all the different strategies that we've discussed today and choose one or two
Okay.
that you can start implementing right away.
Just start small.
Yes. Experiment with them, see what happens.
Especially if it works for you.
Yeah, pay attention to what feels good, what fits into your life.
Your learning style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because even small changes can make a big difference
Absolutely.
in how you think and speak in English. And that opens up so many possibilities
It really does.
for communication and understanding.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.